being dominating and threatening and intimidating is a big part of narcissism. They will use, harm, exploit, and betray anyone and everyone to get their needs met for money, power, pleasure, and status. That's what people don't understand about darkness, is it's very strategic and very pre-planned. In love, you have to give somebody the space to be who they are. If somebody can't hear you, they can't love you.
After I have that first one, I'm no longer in control. I really wanted to quit. And then I would wake up the next morning and have no choice. I'd lost my identity and I didn't know who I was. I just had nothing left. And I needed help so bad. It all came down on me. I could not pull myself out of it. I had hit rock bottom. I just knew I was gonna die. And I remember just praying that foxhole prayer, like, God, please just get me through this moment. I'll stop doing bad. I will stop everything. The goal of my podcast is to not only educate people on, mental health, but also let people know that they're not alone.
Dr. Nadine.
Yes.
What are your credentials?
So I have a master's in counseling, and then I got my PhD in somatic psychotherapy, which is really just a fancy way to say that I use the body in psychotherapy, in my therapy sessions.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to a school in Santa Barbara called Pacifica Graduate Institute.
You were living in New York, then you moved to California?
Yeah, so I was living in New York, and then I moved to California, I think around 32, 33. Yep. And then I went to school in California.
What was it like being married to the Wolf of Wall Street?
It was crazy, just as the movie depicts. It was very dramatic. It was very erratic. The highs were really high. The lows were really low. It was a very extreme time in my life.
How did you guys meet?
How did I meet the wolf?
Yeah.
I met him at a party. He had a party at the beach at his house, and I went with my boyfriend at the time, and I just walked into this party, and I was 22, and all these people were acting really weird. And I didn't understand what was happening, but they were all on Quaaludes.
Was it exactly like the movie?
It was. The party wasn't as big. Of course, the movie makes it grander and bigger, but no, the party wasn't as big, but it was just like that. Walked in. I guess he saw me, and unfortunately, just like they show in the movie, one of his friends exposed themselves to me, which felt very violating.
Oh, my God.
No, that was real. And then I said to my boyfriend, we got to get the hell out of here, and we left.
Oh, my God. And then Jordan followed up with you.
Jordan then made somebody $15,000 in the stock market to actually set me up to go out with him and her as friends. And I had no idea that it was a whole setup behind the scene.
Wow. So he was working it from behind the scene.
Always.
Very early.
Very early on, yes.
So you specialize in trauma bonding.
Yes, I do.
Relationships.
Yes.
Loving relationships.
That's correct.
Narcissism.
Correct.
You were on the receiving end of that for a very long time.
For a very long time.
What are some signs that you are dating a narcissist as a partner?
Yeah. There's the typical signs that a lot of people talk about. They're self-absorbed, they're selfish, they're very into their image. But I think that some of the things, like when you start to date them, to really look out for is when you're with them and you set a boundary and you say, you know what, no, I don't really want to do it that way. They go ballistic. They hate boundaries. They don't want you to say no to them, right? It's like their way or the highway. Or if you express a need that's not about them, that doesn't directly, make their lives better, right? So, but the way I really say it that's super simple for people is that they will use, harm, exploit, and betray anyone and everyone to get their needs met for money, power, pleasure, and status.
Is that because there is a lack of empathy within?
Yeah, they definitely don't have empathy, remorse, or compassion. They can have cognitive empathy, but not emotional empathy, where they can actually feel for you when you're feeling sad or disappointed or hurt.
Where does that come from within a narcissist at an early age, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways that somebody could become a narcissist, right? I mean, unfortunately, men are usually more narcissistic because we live in the patriarchy. So just the very fact that you're a man, you get imbued a sense of entitlement, right? And that's not even the man's fault, it's just the culture's fault. So entitlement, wait, what were you were saying? Oh, where does it come from? So it can be you have an abusive childhood, right? Your needs are neglected, your authentic self isn't honored. Or it could be that you're very indulged, that you're never told no. Or it could be an extreme mix of both. And then it also depends upon the temperament of the child too, right? Some children are born with a dominant temperament.
When did you realize in your relationship that something was wrong, that your I know it's so obvious, but like the early signs maybe for the listener who may or may not think they're in a relationship with a narcissist, what were some of the feelings early on when you started to say, okay, something's kind of wrong here?
So for me, it happened when I started to assert my boundaries, when I started to have my autonomy, when we started to have to negotiate about the big things, when to get married, when to have children, my ex became very dominating. So being dominating and threatening and intimidating is a big part of narcissism, because what's the thing? They want control. Right? So when that started to happen, I was very confused because I was like, but wait, you say you love me and I'm your soulmate and I'm the most important thing to you in the world. And yet when I say to you that I want to wait to have children, I want to wait to get married, you go nuts and you threaten to leave me. So that right away was so super confusing, yet I was so young and had no understanding of what's happening. So I just was like, oh, he just must love me so much.
So you are in a healthy, loving relationship now.
Yes.
Complete opposite side of the spectrum.
Yes.
It's different.
Yes, very different.
What does a healthy interaction look like on a day-to-day basis in terms of, you know, with your ex, with Jordan, you were talking about being dominated and like him imposing, it was his way or the highway, essentially.
His way or the highway, yep.
What does a normal day-to-day relationship look like in a loving relationship?
You know, it's very simple. And people think it's this like big magical thing. If somebody can't hear you, they can't love you. And when I first got into a debate or argument or conflict with my current husband, John, and it happened, and I said, well, I feel like this, or this is what I need. And he's like, okay, yeah, I get that. And I was like, what? Wait, you hear it? Wait, what the hell is happening? I almost fell off my chair. And so it was that simple. And I say that love has two qualities. The quality, two conditions, let's say. The quality of connection that you have with your partner, right? The warmth, the empathy, the compassion. But then also in love, you have to give somebody the space to be who they are. You have to be able to have autonomy. And with John, I can have full autonomy.
Now, did you feel, once you got out of the relationship with Jordan,
Yes.
I am assuming there was a lot of work that you had to do on yourself.
Yes.
What were some of the things that you had to work on following that relationship to become healthy again?
Yeah, so right when I met Jordan, I was so overwhelmed by him, I went right into therapy. So I've been in therapy for over 25 years. So that's why I became a therapist, because I know it works. So I went right into therapy even when I was with him. So I was working on myself all along, but that really didn't matter, right? Because I couldn't change him. But then when I left therapy, when I left him, I went to a place called the Karen Foundation. Yeah.
I went to their rehab.
Oh, you did?
I did, in Pennsylvania, in Reading, Pennsylvania.
I went in Pennsylvania. And
amazing.
They have a program there called Breakthrough.
Yep.
And I did break through, and that changed my life. Even though I'd been in therapy, but they do family, like I learned there I could say no. I could have a boundary, and it was okay, it was healthy. And I just learned a lot about how my natural temperament, which is beautiful actually, I'm a very agreeable, kind, compassionate, altruistic, loyal, tolerant person, right? Not bad things, but they were out of balance because they were exploited and weaponized against me in that relationship. So I learned a lot about myself. I learned about my attachment patterns. I learned a lot of different wonderful things.
Can you dive a little bit into the different attachment styles
Sure.
in a relationship?
Sure, yeah. So there's secure attachment, which we all want to get towards, right? And we're born, I think, really with secure attachment, then our parents fuck us up. No.
Yeah, right.
No, certain parents, not all. So that's secure, where you just feel safe inside. You don't mind if the person leaves. You know they're going to come back. I'm good. You don't feel insecure. You trust the person. They trust you. You can have open, honest communication. Then there's anxious attachment, where you feel terribly anxious and insecure. Are they going to call? Will they call? Do they love me? Right? There's just this constant worry about your worth. And you're a little bit more needy and a little clingier because you're just looking for that constant reassurance. And then there's avoidant attachment, which is more where I fell on the spectrum, which you're more self-reliant. You want the partner like in the house, but maybe not in the room, right? You don't have that need for constant reassurance, but you can almost be too aloof, right, and too self-reliant. And then there's a really hard one, which is fearful avoidant, which is more disorganized attachment, where you're just a mess and it's dramatic and erratic, and it's all the attachment styles except for secure mixed together. You're insecure, but then you're avoiding them, then you're demanding. So it's more what you see in a trauma bond too.
Could one embody multiple attachment styles?
Yeah, that's why that fearful avoidance is really embodying both.
Okay.
Right, without the secure.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes. And also your attachment system can get activated. I've worked with people where their attachment system gets activated more with females than males, even if they're heterosexual. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's very complicated. It's unique to each person.
In recovery, I'm coming up on 7 years of sobriety, and I've learned I constantly have to be working my program.
Yes.
And if I stop going to meetings, if I stop working on myself, I will start to fall back into old patterns, old ways, and I'm running the risk of relapse.
Yes.
With attachment styles, people seek out help, therapy, etc. for those things, right? To get secure attachment is that green zone where everyone wants to be.
Yes, correct.
Is it similar to recovery where people will, move from avoidant to secure, but then maybe stop working on themselves and slip back? Because I feel like the avoidant attachment is more of like a insecurity thing, self-value.
That can be, and also depends upon who the partner you're with and what they're activating within you, right? It just depends upon the interaction between the two attachment patterns, right? So you could be more needy and have anxious attachment and feel like you're not getting your needs met. And so instead of being vulnerable and dropping down and telling your partner, hey, I need this, you go, you're a jerk. You're not giving me what I need. I hate you. Yeah. And then the avoidant leans out, right? So it just depends upon who you're with. But, I mean, listen, I've been in therapy for 25 years. I've gone to school to be a therapist. I've done everything I can pretty much to work on myself. So I think we are the most important project we'll ever work on. Mm-hmm. And the work doesn't really stop. Now, right now, I'm not in therapy, but that's okay. I'm 56 and I'm taking a break. But yeah, I think we need constant work.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but there is a moment where you've done a lot of work and you can feel secure.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you finally land, you know, and I'm sure you get that feeling often.
Yeah, you build the awareness.
Yes.
You understand, you've done the work, you've educated yourself.
Correct. Correct.
Could you break down what trauma bonding is?
Sure. So that's basically at its core, it's a toxic, dysfunctional relationship between two emotionally attached people. So it can be between lovers, it can be between parent and child, it can be between boss and employee, but it has to have two conditions. So it has to have a power imbalance where one person has the power over the other, because remember, in a trauma bond, it's all about power and control. The perpetrator, a pathological lover, wants to dominate. And then it has to have intermittent reinforcement, which is just a fancy way of saying that 70% of the time the partner is abusive, controlling, and mean, and 30% of the time they're kind, generous, caring, and helpful. So it has to have those two conditions for it to be an actual trauma bond. It's not like a bond between two people who had trauma.
Right.
Right, and that's what a lot of people think.
I think that's a misconception.
Yes.
I mean, when I've been educated on trauma bonding since going to therapy and even in recovery and whatnot.
Yes.
But for a very long time, I thought, oh, well, they both had childhood trauma, therefore they're both bonding over that.
Exactly, yeah, but that's not what it is.
That 30% that the dominating party shows love, compassion, that keeps the partner holding on.
Completely.
It's almost like giving a mouse cheese just to keep them coming.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, correct.
And then the 70% hits.
That's right. And it's very, very confusing. And so there's a really important term about trauma bonding. It's called cognitive dissonance, right? And so there was a great book that I read 2019, Women Who Love Psychopaths by Sandra Brown. Great book. And I learned about it there. And I was like, oh, that's it. Because you're so confused, right? So it's like the mental discomfort you feel or the confusion, is he good, is he bad? And I call the two sides Dirty John and Romeo. Because I used to call him Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And all the young people were like, what are you talking about? So yeah, so it keeps you confused, and I say hope is the hook. You just hope that they're going to get back to that Romeo stage.
How do those relationships usually end, or if they even end?
You know, usually not well. Well, sometimes, and this is the ironic part, you can put up with this pathological narcissist forever, right, and tolerate everything, and then they often discard. They just discard their partners and lovers because they don't have any remorse, empathy, or compassion, and they really can't attach. So it's very hard for them to attach, so they can just discard much easier. Or finally, you know, like me, I just had it. And you have a last straw moment. But it takes usually 4 to 7 times for somebody to leave a trauma bond because of the cognitive dissonance. So yeah, they can end violently, you know, they can end, unfortunately, somebody really getting hurt. But they don't usually end well, you know.
What did the final month of the relationship with your ex-husband look like? Like, what was the final straw?
Well, for me, I had a few straws, but the first one, there was one when I told him if he didn't get sober, I was leaving him. And he went crazy because I said, you have to get an intervention. I'm not going to sit here and watch you kill yourself, right? And he went nuts and cursed me out. I wouldn't even say it on the podcast and just got violent. And so, and that's depicted in the movie, right? So that everybody knows, if you've seen the movie, you know that scene. And so that was the first one. I was like, okay. But he went and got sober, which was great, and he came back for us. So I was like, oh, I can't leave him now, you know. But then when I told him how hard it was, his abuse and his drug addiction, he was like, wasn't that bad. And that was, I didn't know that remorse. I didn't understand all these words. So I didn't understand callousness. I didn't understand insensitivity. So then my heart closed because I think I can only speak for myself, but I can speak for my patients too. It's not just the abuse, it's that they don't think it hurts, right? That lack of remorse is the knife in the heart. And then he got arrested. So I got lucky. So that was my window. And I was like, he can't hurt me anymore. I'm out.
It was like, I got sober for you.
Yes.
And then you said, well, this was really hard. And you know what? Like, you're allowed to do whatever you're an equal partner in that relationship.
Right.
God, I mean, I saw the movie and there were a lot of lies from his end coming to you.
Yes.
And then maybe just getting sober wasn't enough for you.
Right.
And that's okay for you to.
It just wasn't. But in my mind, I was so young. I was like, okay, he's getting sober. But once he said it, once that lack of remorse was what was the nail in the coffin. And then he got arrested, and he had an ankle bracelet on. So he was the government's problem, right? And I knew I was safe. Because you have to remember, there was a power imbalance, right? Because he was so wealthy. He made all the money. So once he got arrested, the whole power imbalance shifted. We were equals.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I knew I could leave because I knew he couldn't take the kids from me. He couldn't say, oh, she's a drug addict too. Like, who knows what, because that happens all the time. And so I left.
When he was arrested,
Yes.
Did they kick in your front door?
No, they just the FBI came with the big jackets and the thing. FBI,
the whole nine
yards. Yeah.
And what were your kids? Your kids were young.
My kids were very young.
They don't remember.
They don't remember.
Thank God.
They don't. They don't remember any of it. And they were sleeping. It was the night.
Yeah. Did your kids see the movie?
They did. They went to the premiere.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they did.
Were there a lot of questions?
Luckily I'd already spoken to them about everything. So they knew. They knew everything because they were like 18 and maybe 19 and 17 or something like that. So they knew. So I always said to them, your dad was abusive and a drug addict. That's why I left him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Are you guys friends today?
Yes, we are friends.
That's amazing.
We are friends.
I love to hear that.
Yeah, and we raised 2 great kids, and we always got along well throughout raising them. Yeah, I mean, we've had our moments. We're 2 strong-willed people, but he's a great dad.
Yeah.
And we always came together for the kids.
I love to hear that.
Yeah, it's important. And they're great. They're amazing. My daughter's a therapist. My son's a businessman and a musician. And
yeah, I see your kids on social media.
Yeah, they're thriving adults
They
now.
look like they're thriving.
Yeah.
You can only see so much on Instagram,
but they really are.
They look like
they really
they're...
are. And I attribute that. We've been crazy from the way we live together to him writing the book, the movie, now what I do on social media. But the moral of the story is everybody came out the other side.
Yeah. Now, what would you advise? So I divorced. Me and my ex-wife got divorced. We have a 5-year-old.
I know, it's so sweet.
Yeah, and we communicate. We're best of friends today.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for the listener who went through a divorce and they're raising a child?
Yeah, this is a tricky one because first of all, the court system is horrible, right? Our family court system, even for a good divorce, is horrible.
Agreed.
Right? I didn't go to court, but it's a terrible situation for people. It just re-traumatizes everyone, right? And so if you can stay out of court, I highly recommend that, but it's not always so easy. And the thing is that some people just cannot be good parents together, unfortunately. Some people can. And if you're working with somebody where you can't be a good parent with them, then you have to really have radical acceptance around that and understand that you can only control you and you have to just be the best parent that you can be to your child within very, very challenging circumstances. And it's hard. I've seen it. It's very hard.
It's hard. I've personally have gone through ups and downs. In the beginning, it was very rocky. We went through the court system, and it re-traumatized us. And
I knew it. Yeah.
The healing began once the court.
Yeah, because the court system is absolutely horrible. We should not call it family court. It's not family court. It's like hell. It's like hell court. Oh, it's terrible. And so I really just work with the women, because and some men too. It's just get educated, stay as calm as you can, be empowered, just get out of it as quick as you can. Honestly, people drag these things on forever. And listen, and there's some antagonistic people, because narcissists, I should have mentioned that word, are highly antagonistic and hostile at times, right? And so they can use the court system for post-separation abuse if they want. So you do not want to stay in that court system because it's not your friend.
Yeah. Can a narcissist recover?
Yes.
And get better?
I believe so, even though people tell me no. I've witnessed it. I've seen it. Of course, you have to remember, a pathological person runs on a spectrum, right? So a person who's like a malignant pathological person, like P. Diddy, he's not getting better, okay? Right, so so it runs on a very big spectrum. And so my belief is that if somebody wants to get better, they have to want it. They can get better. You know, and a lot of people say no, a lot of experts say no, but I've witnessed it, so I can't lie. I've actually seen it. What I would say the majority do, no, I wouldn't say that, but it can happen. And I'm in the business of change, right?
Big time. You're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, so I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Can one embody narcissistic tendencies but not be a full-on narcissist?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, healthy narcissism is good.
Yeah.
That means that you're realistic about your capabilities, right? You understand you're not perfect or horrible. You're just a suffering human being in the middle of the road like the rest of us.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so it's not... Healthy narcissism is there. And then, of course, you could have certain traits. I'm sure I had many traits, you know?
Yeah.
But that's the whole point about development, is that even if you have traits that aren't the best for you and aren't the best for the people around you, once you become aware of them, and if they're making you suffer enough, trust me, you will probably change them.
When the pain is great enough,
you will
change.
Or, and I've seen many people stay in the pain, and a lot of people can stay in the pain, and especially when they stay in their addiction. I think that those two really
go hand
in hand.
Yeah. So you go to California, you get your master's, you become a doctor.
Yes.
Can you walk us through the process of when you became a doctor and, you know, building your practice and the passion that you have of passing your experience along essentially to others?
Yeah, you know, I was meditating in California and drinking green juice and doing yoga like everybody does. And I was like, I'm going to go back to school to be a therapist. And then I went back to school to be a therapist. And then you have to do 3,000 hours to be a licensed clinician. So I was like, I might as well just stay in school and get my doctorate. And then I opened a small practice in Manhattan Beach, California, which was my community.
Love it there.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so the people just came, and it was just, it's a magical experience being a therapist. And every day I'd walk down to the office, and I'd think about all the people I'm going to see, and I'd say, oh, that's why I went through that. That's why I went through that. Because experience is the greatest teacher. And now that does not mean you have to have a lot of trauma to be a therapist. You don't. Because education matters, and theory matters, and all the things that we've been talking about, right, matters. But I just love what I do. I'm just lucky, and I saw all these beautiful, smart, kind women getting tortured and having experienced coercive control and abuse and betrayal, and that's what made me write my book. Because I was like, I don't know. And I would not recommend writing a book. It's very hard. We talked about humility before. Oh, my God. You want to talk about a humbling experience. But now that it's done and it's helping people, I love it.
Plug your book. What's the name of your book?
Run Like Hell. A therapist's guide to recognizing, escaping, and healing from trauma bonds. Yep.
I mean, very appropriate name.
Very appropriate name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in recovery, helping other people is, so I go to a 12-step program. 12-step is helping others.
Yes.
Go in there and, you know, get the newcomer's number, call them the next day, stay in touch, work with them.
Yes.
You know, start sponsoring people.
Yes, yes.
How has working with others, people who are freshly going through this, helped you?
Well, one of my teachers has a great saying. He says, you want to take an emotionally dysregulated therapist, put her in front of a patient. This, first of all, when you're a therapist and you're sitting in front of a person, what's beautiful about it is you're in the present moment. Just like you and I are in the present moment right now. I can't think about my grocery list, what I'm worried about, right? So being a therapist, you're always in the present moment with another beautiful soul. And it's just the most incredible experience. And that doesn't mean that sometimes it's not very challenging, because I hear some very disturbing things all day long. But there's just nothing like sitting with another soul, and you just are both in the container together, wanting to facilitate this person's process, help this person reach their potential in life and in love. And it's and then they do it. Then a lot of the times they do it.
Your experience, there's a lot of credibility there.
Yes.
You went and became a doctor, so you're credentialed, but you also bring the experience to the table.
Yes.
And your experience is well known.
Yes, whether I like it or not.
Right,
yes.
right. Has that increased the demand for your needs? Has it surged? Because you have such a, your experience is very
unique. Yeah. It's unique and it's similar, right? I think, I was a therapist way before the movie came out, and I think I'm just a good therapist, right? I think I found what I'm really good at. It took me a long time. It took me till I was 40. So anybody who's listening, don't give up, okay?
There's hope.
There's hope. It took me a long time, but I'm a good therapist. And because I love theory, I love studying. And then I think when the movie came out, I was like, who the hell's going to want to come to me? I mean, that was my initial thought. Like, But then the opposite happened, as you're stating. I had street cred.
Right.
That's what it was. I had street cred. People they would say to me, okay, wait, you went through that and you came out on this side. I want to come to you. Mm-hmm. And that was ironic because I didn't think it, but it did happen.
Yeah. You're married 23 years.
Yes.
Congratulations. That's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
My marriage lasted 6, so I couldn't imagine 23.
It goes by quick. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. So where are you at today? How is life for you today?
It's good. It's really, really good. I'm a grandmother, which is so much fun. I'm a Gigi, so I love playing with my grandchildren. They're amazing. And you know what it is? It's pretty drama-free. I get up, I exercise or play tennis, I come into my office, I manage my social media, which I adore, connecting with all my followers. I am writing a course right now that goes with my book. I work with my patients, connect with my family, connect with friends, have a beautiful dinner with my husband, get to meet wonderful people like you, and then go to sleep, and the day starts again. So it's I'm 56, and it's a very, I think it's a wonderful time in my life. So I don't want people to fear aging.
You don't look 56, so easy for you to say.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, it's just I stayed out of the sun. That was the trick.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like, and I know things in the body goes. That's for sure. Like I've had some of my health challenges, but you know what? Your emotional maturity, it's so fun to be emotionally mature. Nobody talks about that. It's actually a lot of fun.
It's a process.
Yeah, but to not take things personally, to not get triggered so easily, to let things go, to roll with things, to feel, to trust your intuition. There's a magic in that people don't get yet, till they get older.
So I go to therapy, and those are some of the things that we work on. Not taking things personal.
Oh, that's huge.
And it was correlated with insecurity and deep down in here in my core.
Yeah.
Then the progress that you make
Yeah.
You don't notice it right then
Correct.
and there in the moment.
Yes.
6 months goes by and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm single, canceled a date on me.
Yes.
That happened twice in the past 6 months and none of those times did I.
Yeah. You didn't spiral.
No.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, no problem.
You weren't like, oh my God, I'm a terrible person. Right.
Right. No one's going to want me.
Right.
No one's going to this. No one's going to that.
Yes. Yes.
And I was like, it's not personal. People have a million things going on in their lives.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And you realize that rejection, failure, mistakes, that has nothing to do with your worth. It just means you're trying. Just means you're showing up and you're trying. And that's like, and I get rejected 100 times a day with work, with my book, with this, with that. I'm like, okay, next.
It's funny, this even goes to, can apply to my career.
Right.
I worked in corporate America up until I started this podcast because they wanted me to move back to New York City. And because, I'm divorced and my ex lives in West Palm, my daughter's here, I'm not going to be a part-time dad.
Right.
Being a dad is
you.
number one.
Good for you.
So I resigned from Google and, started doing the podcast. But like I tried so many different things that I don't even want to call them failures because I realized that wasn't for me. That wasn't for me. That wasn't for me.
That's right.
And
that's right.
I just wasn't good at something. And I kept moving. I mean, I'm having a little bit of traction with the podcast and sticking with it. But people need to understand that the first thing you try and you don't or you're not successful at it.
That's right.
Don't get discouraged.
Don't get discouraged.
Move on.
That's right. And you have to persevere and you have to have grit and you have to keep showing up. Right? People like, oh, your Instagram's so big, your social media. I've been doing it for 10 years, 12 years. Like I was on Instagram in 2013 before anybody was on it. Mm-hmm. And I don't even have a big one compared to most people. Mm-hmm. But what I have is real engagement and real followers and a real community. Mm-hmm. And that's what I care about. But it takes a long time. It took me 2.5, 3 years to write my book. It took me 5 years. And then with my dissertation, 7 years to finish school, all of my schooling. Like, don't give up. Mm-hmm. Keep showing up for yourself every single day, whatever it is that whatever you want to do, right?
How did you, in the beginning, when you first started, creating this social media presence?
Yeah.
Obviously, you have your story, you have your profession. How long did it take? Because I just kind of established this in my community.
Yes.
Kind of what my community is actually going to be.
Exactly.
Did that take some time, trial and error?
Time. Especially because, you would think that it would have been obvious to me that I would end up helping women in trauma bonds, but it wasn't because I really wanted to help everybody and I didn't want a niche. I had like this weird thing about it. I don't know why. But then it just slowly, once I opened up to the idea of like, okay, you did have a movie made about your life that was Martin Scorsese's highest grossing film. And so I just played around with it. And then people responded. And then I just played around with it a little bit more. People responded. Played around with it a little bit more. I was like, okay, we have something here. Mm-hmm. And then it just took on a life of its own. But I can't say I had some like great big plan. Mm-hmm. Right. I think what people don't understand is you have to throw things out there and then see what emerges, and then follow that.
Just throwing stuff on the wall, see what sticks, and optimizing towards what sticks.
Yes, and then I saw what sticked, and I saw what the people wanted, and what the community wanted, and then it just built.
It's discouraging though in the beginning.
Yes, of course, when you get 2 people or 3 people, yeah, but they come. If that's what's meant for you. They come.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful process, though, once you start seeing that community shape.
Yes. And they thank me and say, you're so validating. I don't feel crazy, Dr. Nay. Thank you for educating
I'm
us.
not crazy.
Yeah, that's a big one. Thank you for validating me. I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, are you close with your patients?
Super close.
So do you do even beyond patient? doctor relationships, almost like friends, or is that something you try to keep?
I don't really do that. I mean, like I do keep a good, healthy boundary, but I'm very relational with my patients. You know, like when I had my office, they would come in with their dogs, with their babies. They'd be breastfeeding, right? They know about, well, because I'm on social media and I had a movie made about my life, they know me, right, as a person. It's not like the old-fashioned, you know, Sigmund Freud, where you're a blank slate. No, they know me, and I'm a person, and I'm super relational with them. And I get to know them and their families really well. But I don't socialize with them.
Yeah. How rewarding is it if they've been working with you for about 5 years or so, and then you start to see the change and their life and family relationships improve?
Yes, it's so rewarding. It's the magic, because people see, that's the thing, is that people can listen. Here's the thing: the one constant in life is change. So we shouldn't be surprised that if you intentionally try to change, it will happen. But again, you have to be consistent and you have to want it.
I mean, we are in a time right now where change is happening.
Oh my God.
Faster, and
with AI, forget it.
It's insane.
It's insane. I use AI all the time.
Me too.
It's so fun. I'm like,
I know.
I'm so pissed off that I wrote my book right before it came.
Oh man.
I could have done it with my book, but I didn't. I did it the old-fashioned way. That's okay.
But you're going to get the results doing it the old-fashioned way. People can tell.
Yeah.
I think with an email, with a social media post, it's a little different.
It's a little different.
But
a book, no. Yeah. And I integrated so much theory, so I probably couldn't have been done. But I love AI. I love the ease of it. I need this. Can you I want to say this in so many words. Can you do it? And I'm like, wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fun.
Make this YouTube video title more salacious.
Yes. Can you make this newsletter sassier? Yeah.
Yep.
No,
clickbait. No.
It's really fun. No, and the world is changing so much. And I think that my work right now is so timely because of what we've seen in the news with the P. Diddy and, you know, what I started like right around Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, right? All of those really, this dark part of society that we need to get educated about.
Jeffrey Epstein, he was right here in Palm Beach.
I know.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And it's just so important that everyone gets educated, and it's not hidden anymore in the shadows. And it was just going on. I mean, this P. Diddy thing for 30 years. And yet last night I heard there was like 3,000 victims.
Yeah, and there were 120 new lawsuits that came through within the last 24 hours.
Right, and it's just, it has to stop. And one of them was a 9-year-old. I mean, it has to stop. So I love my job of empowering victims all over.
So in that baby oil that they found in his house, he was using GHB.
Yeah.
So I believe that's it's date rape drug.
I know what it is.
Yeah, and he was putting it in.
He was putting it in the baby oil.
Baby oil. So it was a topical when he was rubbing it on people. So the next day when they would wake up and say, "Oh my God, I feel like I was drugged last night. I'm going to the hospital and I'm going to be tested," and they would come up negative.
I mean, see, and that's the crazy part. So that's why I call this person a pathological lover. I don't even use narcissism as its own term, because it's psychopathy, Machiavellianism, narcissism, and sadism. And Machiavellianism is manipulation. How strategic do you have to be to do that? That's not just like a whim of let me drop a little roofie.
That's wild.
That's so strategic. And that's what people don't understand about darkness, is it's very strategic and very pre-planned.
Is there any coming back from Machiavellianism? Is that how you say it?
Machiavellianism.
Machiavellianism, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know. That's a different one. I don't think so. I think once you go into psychopathy, sadism, Machiavellianism, it's very hard to change
the no return
those.
zone.
Yeah, it's very hard to change those things. But because you have to remember, why didn't P. Diddy change? He was getting rewarded.
Yep.
All he was doing was getting more and more and more money, more sex, more women or men, more power, more pleasure, right?
The key to New York City.
Oh, that's the craziest thing. And that just happened last year. I'm like, what the hell? So that's why these people don't change, those people, because they're getting all their power, pleasure, status needs met.
Yeah.
It's so disturbing.
So what piece of advice would you have for the 22, 23, 24-year-old Nadine who was entering into a relationship, seeing signs of narcissism, and who knows what else you were seeing?
Yeah.
That listener that was in your position, what piece of advice would you have for them?
I would say to them to trust what they're seeing. Like if your gut, when I got engaged to Jordan and he said, will you marry me? And I said, yes, my gut said, uh-oh. So my body was telling me something. Listen to that inner voice. Do not push that inner voice down. Do not ignore that. Do not rationalize. Do not make excuses. And if you do think that that's what you're heading into, get educated. Figure it out and get out before you get trapped.
Call Dr. Nadine.
Yeah, and especially if you're going to be financially dependent upon them, right? That's just a whole different ball of wax. And, I think it's so important. I know there's this whole new trad wife thing, but I can't say I'm so for it. I think we all need to have some sort of financial responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah. What made you ignore that voice in your head at that age?
Oh, I had no idea who I was. And I think I projected all my power onto him. Like he was so powerful and dominant and strong. And I was like, oh, he'll carry that for me. And I really thought that I was safe with him. But it was the most dangerous place for me to be by playing it safe by staying with him, if that makes sense.
Was there fear in, he was that safe space. He was that big, strong, safe.
Yeah.
Was there fear in leaving him and going elsewhere?
I think there was just fear in, first of all, leaving him because he didn't want me to leave him at that point.
Yeah.
But I think it was more that, the myth of romantic love, like, oh, someday my prince is going to come and save me.
Yeah.
Ain't no prince coming. And I believed that.
Yeah. Well, Nadine, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate you coming on. You are helping so many people today, and I appreciate everything that you do for our society, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.